Good morning, students. Welcome to my class of BA Part 3rd English Literature. And in our last lectures and videos, we studied about the how the syllabus is now divided into the later British poets, and in section A, after Romanticism, and we come to Robert Browning. And why is he important in the history of English literature? We studied that how dramatic monologue was so written with so much clarity and finesse, and he took it to a very high level, Robert Browning. And the poem which is prescribed in your course by Robert Browning is My Last Duchess. And we studied how different aspects of dramatic monologue, that it's a form which is written as a speech made by a character other than the author or the poet. So the persona is not reflecting the poet, but it's the dialogue form in which the person who's speaking is the only person speaking, and therefore it is called a monologue. And it is dramatic because of the action and the crisis, which is a characteristic feature of a drama. So it is usually addressed by the speaker to some other character who remains silent. So these are some points which you need to note while studying the poem, that is this happening in it or not. And basically dramatic monologues are used to narrate and dramatize Victorian concerns. So what were the various concerns during that era? And what are the conventions as a literary form? What features are important in a dramatic monologue? A narrator or a speaker, as I told you, a fictional speaker, and an audience which is silent, and symbolic setting. And there are dramatic gestures. That is why the word drama is included in it. So there is expressions, there is movement of the eyes or the hands, which provokes the speaker to react in that way. So in the present poem which we read, we find that the setting is the palace of the Duke of Ferrara of Italy, and it is on a day in October 1564. And Ferrara is in northern Italy. It's a place between Bologna and Padua on the river of Po River. So this is the background to it. And Duke of Ferrara, actually, if we go into the historical background, it is modeled after, or it is imitating Alfonso II, the fifth and last Duke of the Principality, who ruled Ferrara from 1559 to 97. But in 3 marriages, fathered no heir to succeed him. So there was this historical background to the poem My Last Duchess, that the Duke is representing or is an imitation of the real Duke of Ferrara in Italy, who married thrice. So in this also we find that there is this My Last Duchess. So it refers to the Duchess who is now no more. And the deceased Duchess in the poem was his first wife, Lucrezia di Medici, a daughter of Cosimo Medici, Duke of Florence, who was the Duke of Florence. And Lucrezia died in 1561 at the age of 17. So you can guess that the age of marriage in those earlier times was so less. So this is some background you need to know. The characters, by now after reading the first stanza, you would be familiar, is a speaker or a narrator, and the speaker is the Duke of Ferrara. Here Robert Browning appears to have modelled him, as I told you, after Alfonso. And the poem reveals this Duke as a proud, possessive, selfish man and a lover of the arts. He likes the portrait of her, the subject of this monologue, that is the last Duchess, because unlike the Duchess when she was alive, it reveals only her beauty and none of the qualities in her that annoyed the Duke when she was alive. So when a person dies, then you tend to remember only the good points, because no more that friction is there. So what is the rhyme and the meter in this poem? I have already mentioned is iambic pentameter. You need to just write that. And the portrait of the Duchess of Ferrara is a fresco, a type of work painted in watercolors directly on a plaster wall. So you also need to know about this. The portrait symbolizes the Duchess's possessive, controlling nature, in as much as the Duchess has become an art object which he owns and controls. This is very important, that how during that time women issues were treated and women were considered as an object. So that is a feminist way of reading it. And this I've already talked about the rhyme scheme. The theme, finally, you need to know is the arrogant authoritarian mindset of a proud Renaissance duke. The more important portrait in the poem is the one the Duke paints of himself with his words. So important that while the narrator, the speaker, is speaking about the Duchess, what he is revealing about himself also comes forth to the reader. And this is how Browning creates this nuances in the poem, these layers, and the irony, and focuses on the mindset of uh, the England at that time. So in our next video, we will complete the second part of this poem. We have already finished part 1. So with this, we come to the end, and thank you so much for listening.